Juliet Dorris-Williams, Executive Director of the P.E.E.R Center.
Can you tell me a little bit about your own mental health journey?
My own mental health journey. Wow. Um, so I am, I guess the short version is that I'm a um, chronic person that lives with depression. So it's a chronic kind of. I don't remember ever not dealing with that on in some capacity, but those of us who have these particular type of experiences, it waxes and wanes, and it's level, and then it can become deeper. So it's a bit of it can be a bit of a roller coaster ride depending on what's going on in our lives. And so yeah, I live with depression. Um, I also had lived with anxiety, and I'm a childhood and adult survivor of trauma. So those are my particular, um, I call it street cred when it comes to my peer-ness in terms of my peer lived experience. So yeah, those are those are my struggles.
What inspired you to create the P.E.E.R Center?
Well, quite frankly, well, first of all, I did not create the Peer Center. Let me say that. But I have been here from the beginning of our journey. So the Peer Center, before it was called the Peer Center, was the idea of the people who we call our um, that worked for our parent agency. And so we were founded in via a grant that our parent agency received, to start this what they called back in the day a consumer operated center or program. So we started off as a program inside of a larger community mental health organization, and so they wrote a grant to start this program. Um, the big goal of the grant application was or the deliverables for that grant was that this program would morph into its own freestanding nonprofit organization separate from the parent agency. So from the beginning, the intention of the of the effort was to stand up a nonprofit organization separate from the parent agency. And so I was hired by the people in the parent agency to I still remember these words: provide strategic direction towards meeting that big goal of standing up this freestanding nonprofit from the parent agency. And there was a timeline too. At the top of year 4, we were supposed to spend the first 3 years doing all the things to get us ready to stand on our own. And so I was hired pre-opening, as it were, as were a number of folk, to begin this journey toward becoming our own agency, and that is what we did within that 3 year period. So at the top of year 4, we spent those first 3 years, doing all the things. Writing, securing the 501c3 designation, developing a board of directors, building the program, making sure that the program had a solid foundation, so that when the magic the magic top of year 4 or the bottom of year 3, as it were, then we were going to be ready at the top of year 4 to stand on our own, and that is what we did. So at the last quarter of our third year as a program within the larger agency, we put all the nailed all the the nails, put all the nails and all the bolts and all the things that we needed to do to be on our own, taking control of our finances, taking control of all the things. And in January of that of our fourth year of operations, that was 2010. We were on our own, and so we actually, because I'm not even sure why our Independence Day, we still celebrate our Independence Day as January 2nd every year. But it's because the founding agency was closed on January 1, and because it's New Year's Day. But we're open every day. We were open on January 1st. I'm not sure why our Independence Day. Maybe because we didn't want to share it with New Year's. But we were actually on our own January 1st, 2010. But Independence Day is January 2nd because we have to have our own holiday. So. But we are, yeah. So that's how I got here. I was hired by that founding team, and I have been here providing strategic direction ever since. Even though my title, officially from the beginning, it was executive director, but they had a CEO, so they can't have a CEO and an executive director in the same organization. That would be weird. So on my ID that I wore, it said executive director, but nobody called me that. I was the person providing strategic direction for this effort. But I've been here from the beginning doing that same thing. My title, once the board was formed and meeting and doing all its things that it needed to do as a board of directors, as a bona fide board of directors, they appointed me, and which is their right and their responsibility. They appointed me as the executive director officially, sometime around year 2. Early year 2 of our starting, our beginning operations. And so but officially all the things were in place January 1st, really, celebrated on January 2nd, 2010.
And when I was doing my research, I also saw several books that you've created. What is it like being an author?
That is, in ways, harder
Mm-hmm.
harder than running a nonprofit, because being an author is a personal, well, for me anyway, because I don't write fiction. I write, I don't know what my genre is. It's not like reality, but it is reality, because it's part autobiographical, part spiritual journey, part memoir, I guess is the word, but it's just not like straight any of those things, but sort of a mix of those. And so, but so it's personal and a little bit exasperating, because you want to, well, at least me, if I'm writing things, that I want to write something that's real, that I'm speaking my truth. And so you have to make sure that you're staying real with yourself. So in that respect, and being an author, and our mutual friend would probably agree, it's his own job. It's his own job, with marketing. Unless you make enough money, which I have not and do not make enough money to hire an agent that can do all the things in terms of marketing and all those things that authors need to do. So that's kind of been like sort of my side gig, but more like a hobby that I pay attention to when I have the time. So this job keeps me pretty busy. So the one that pays me a
Right.
salary keeps me pretty busy. So
How does helping others help your own healing process?
oh my gosh. So I believe that it's I think that it's kind of like love, I guess, is that you have to give it away, right? It's no good if you keep it all to yourself. And with this job in particular, because we're talking about health and wholeness and healing and all the things, and so helping others is absolutely a tool, I think it's a wellness tool. I think it's a recovery tool. I believe it's a recovery tool, and I think there's some research to back that up. Is that so it takes you out of yourself, right? It takes the focus off yourself, and being able to support another person on their journey. I'm proof in the pudding, as it were. I'm a true believer in peer support. In that, my first um, my first what I call what I call my actual when my healing and recovery actually started was not in the therapist's office, which that was good too. In my counselor's office, that was great, having that one-on-one support and attention. But I found myself, that's a whole story in and of itself, is how I found myself um, in a room in the basement of a local hospital where a recovery group was meeting, and that with a group of other people um, that were having the same lived experience as me, and they'd come there for help and support, and it was in the company of those people where my journey of recovery truly um, took root, and being able to share with others, and um, uh, that journey. It's like when I started off as someone who came in need of support, and looking to them for some help, um, and after, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months, I actually started volunteering for that agency that was sponsoring this support group, and I became a group facilitator for them, and then I became the one that was facilitating this process of hope and healing, and it was, again, talk about uh, going deep, and recovery getting solidly rooted in the ground, was when I was also sharing and giving, and that whole reciprocal back and forth, that whole mutuality of experience. Um, that was when I knew, okay, there's something powerful about this thing called peer support, and that is when I knew that um, sharing, having the opportunity to share my story, but also have the opportunity to listen to others, and the listening and the sharing, and that, again, that mutuality, that circular process is, I mean, it's I want to say it's magic, but magic happens. So
Yeah, I live with bipolar disorder too, and the biggest thing that helps me is hearing these peer stories and seeing people succeed, because that's makes me feel better more than just hearing tips and stuff like that, because you have some sort of role model to look up to.
yes, Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you always learn something. Even with people who don't have my particular lived experience, I'm always learning something. That is something, no matter, I mean, if that's like a truism or a message that I'd like to get out to the world, is that we always can learn something from the other person, even if our lived experiences don't particularly match.
Right.
Um, but there's always something to learn just by the sharing and the open sharing and um, non-judgment, right? Just there's always something to learn. So we need each other.
Have you seen the stigma of just talking about mental health lessening?
It depends on the day. Every now and again, I'll come across some really insightful um, randomness from. I think it was. I don't know. I don't. There was someone who was doing a campaign. It might have been NAMI. It might have been Mental Health America. I'm not sure, but somehow on my LinkedIn profile, you know how the algorithms will show you things, and
Right.
so a few years back, there every now and again there was some kind of somebody from some walk of life. I think there was a doctor one, and there was a news anchor person just come in to share that their personal story. They live with name it, bipolar, depression, whatever. They live with this. They take medication, and they're doing all these wonderful things. And it was so inspiring just to hear. I mean, people outside of the mental health arena or outside of the addiction recovery arena talking about recovery, about living in recovery. I mean, these are people from all walks of life um, talking real about their own experience of living with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and they're living their lives. They're doing their thing. Um, that was super inspiring to me. Those things don't happen enough, and so I was thinking that things are getting better. But and then the flip side of that is when I hear people, and then sometimes it's people in our business actually, or I think it's our business, talking about recovery, but they don't talk about it from the mental health perspective. They're only talking about it from the alcohol and drug perspective. That's frustrating to me, because it's in a way it's stigmatizing to those of us who don't have that particular lived experience. And so I like to, when I can hear people talking about recovery from a broader sense, because it is mental health and it is addiction and it is, not, it's more than just drugs and alcohol. I mean, people are talking about gambling and eating and all the other things, where addiction writ large, right,
Yeah.
is bigger than just alcohol and drugs. But recovery writ large is about all of us in that spectrum, and that's inspiring. I don't see it too often. We actually, here at the P.E.E.R Center, we started a a social media campaign. It's entitled Mental Health 2, or hashtag MH2. We're talking about recovery is mental health too, to get people to understand that recovery is also mental health. We're not just talking about alcohol, drugs. We're talking about the whole spectrum. And we also include trauma in that. And so, just to um, I mean, other than us, there's not a lot of people that are talking about it across that whole spectrum, but I'm seeing more of it. And so, but your question, do I see a lessening of stigma? Um, I'm gonna say no. I think it's still out there, even though a lot more of us are talking about it and being really upfront about it. And I think it's because we're finding each other and we're getting strength from each other and being encouraged by each other, to just, be, to live our lives out loud, and live our struggles out loud and live our triumphs out loud. I think because we're hearing more of us, but in the general, um, I don't know, the general world conversation, we're still, it's kind of like the news thing. If it bleeds, it leads, right? And so when things happen, and then the first thing, especially, we have shootings that happen, the first thing that people will say, the first thing that comes up is that, we need better health care, better mental health care in our country. It's like, okay, so that's still, we're still there. We've made some movements, but we're still there. So,
What do you do to help your own mental health?
I come to work every day. That helps. That absolutely helps. And I am working. This is an ongoing journey, being mindful of things that I know I need to do, which is, um, sure I get good sleep or sufficient sleep. That's a big one for me. I Obviously I have the counselor on speed dial, so I go through periods of being in treatment and then not. And so I've let me find some wood to knock on. I'm not now, but I go back, period. When I'm feeling the need to do so, stay for a while, and then I'm good. I'm good. And so, and she'll say, "You know where to find me." I said, "I do." So, this last bout that I went through, um, it's a good long time. So, dealing with trauma, which seems to be the thing that rears its head more often than not. Then I get to a level place, and I'm good for that. But when I'm not in regular counseling, monitoring sleep, monitoring nutrition, um, having something meaningful to do. I say I come to work every day, and so that I'm serious about that. Something meaningful to do, and being around, making sure that I'm living into things that inspire me. And so I write, as you know, and so um, I have a podcast that I haven't put an episode out there for a while. So I'm like, do I still have a podcast if I'm not doing it? But it's out there. So there's like 40 or so, 40 some episodes of
Oh,
my
wow.
podcast out there. So it's still there. So yeah. But yeah, having something meaningful to do, paying attention to how I'm feeling, making sure I'm getting sufficient sleep and um, rest. So self care, all the things.
So I got a two-parter here. So
Uh
when
oh.
you started at the Peer Center, did you ever think it was going to grow to what it is? And where do you want to see the future in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Oof. Oof. Okay, so the joke on me is that I only plan to stay for a year. So the joke, you know, uh, people, what is it? We humans make plans and God laughs. So yeah, I only plan to stay a year. And we are celebrating our 17th year of operation this year. So our 17th year fundraiser is coming up in 15 days, actually. So yeah, I only plan to stay a year, and I'm still here. I and did I think it was going to be? Obviously not. It was only planned to stay a year, and so I actually did a post out there because LinkedIn, um, you know how they count years for titles. So when did this title start? So my title actually started in year 15, or 15 years ago. So they sent me an email congratulating me on my 15th year. I was like, yeah, well, it's 17, but okay, so thanks. Um, and and I said I really no, I had no clue that it would be what it was. But it was, the work was interesting, the work was meaningful, and I was inspired, and I kept showing up. I kept showing up just to see what would happen, and it was challenging even, and so all the little building blocks that I needed personally to be hooked in to something, it existed here, and so that was sticky for me, and so no, I did not foresee that it would be what it is today. And I am grateful that I stuck around to see it happen. In terms of 3 to 5 years, our goal has always been to have one of our centers open in each of the four directional quadrants of our city, and so we have currently have an east location and a west location, so north and south, that's still on the horizon. So still looking for that. And I don't know about 3 to 5 years, because that depends on the moolah. And so we accept cash, checks, and credit card donations. But we love what we do. We know that what we do works in terms of providing peer support. We want to do more of it, and have it more accessible to everyone in our city. And so having two more locations, that would be a good point to go out on. But I'm enjoying the work, so they might have to kick me out. So, but yeah, that'd be great. That'd be a great thing for our 3 to 5 years, is to be able to do more of what we do every day.
And with asking for donations, how can people reach out and learn more?
They can go to thepeercenter.org, thepeercenter.org, and there's a big little donate button right there on the on the homepage. So yeah, and just click on that donate button, and we would be so grateful. So grateful, because we're a nonprofit, and we depend upon the kindness of strangers. But we are grateful. I am grateful to be able to do this work, and to be able to continue doing this work. And I get to meet fun people like you. So.
Oh, thank you.